Guys, deluded Gila. Now, for many reasons, this is a subject that affects me. I mean, I've grew up with people ahead of me that had ambitions to do it. I've attended numerous conferences, Kick It Out, FA funded courses and workshops. I have friends that are both at professional coaches at professional academies and clubs and schemes and communities and grassroots and people that are aspiring to. Like I said as well, I've networked with people and been around it and heard from all different walks of different people. Now, what I'm speaking about is coaching in general in regards to England or Britain or whatever you want to call it. I don't really know the purpose or how to structure this, but I mean, it's ridiculous. Firstly, I'll start with one of the reasons I do believe coaching is slightly poorer in England. That is a fact. Whatever way you want to put it, you want to say the under 20s won their World Cup. The Toulon guys did what they had to do, winning that. The under 19s coming up, and we've got talented players. You can say all of this and put a big bow around it and pretend everything's all sunshine, rainbows, and ice creams, but it's not. Firstly, coaching, whatever way you look at it in society, it is looked down upon. Now, coaching and teaching is essentially the same thing. One on average has I'd say on average 20 to let me say 30k on average is a teacher salary. That's nowhere near for a football coach. If you're in a club, you could say up to 20k max a year, maybe a bit more depending on your role and if you've got connections, because it is typically an old guards club in that coaching jobs openings do not become available until it's too late. It's a case of telling friends, and it's very much not what you know, it's who you know. So yeah, in regards to that, better one has less of an average salary than the other. One has better training schemes in that. I'm not saying you can't get bursaries for coaching, but there's a lot of different funding and courses and things available. And there's a shortage in coaching, but it's whispered about. But there's a short, I mean, in teaching, but it's, I mean, in coaching. Sorry, I'm getting confused. In coaching, but it is whispered about. In teaching, it's made a big deal. You see the government's things on TV, etc., etc. Of course, it's different. Of course, I'm not. They're not the same. They are the same, but they're not the same. Obviously, there's subjects and things like that. Let's not be an idiot. Let's actually just focus on the point. So yeah, there's that. But to coach, you have to teach. To teach, you have to coach. To coach someone is to teach. To teach is to coach. They're essentially the same thing. So why is one up here, one's down there in terms of looking down upon? I'm not talking about the money. I mean, fair enough. That's fair enough. But why is one looked down upon? People just assume a coach just a joke in tracksuits and stuff like that. It really isn't fair. On top of that, of course, teaching has become unstable in that many teachers are actually losing their jobs. But coaching is, like I said, if you're lucky and you've got a job in a scheme or community, then fair enough. But typically, it's the ones that do it for love that find themselves. But I call it 0 hours contract, even though it's not, because typically it's can be ranging a day to a week in many different locations. Driving up there, now let's factor in if you're driving, you're not the cost of fuel. Driving many different locations. Let's just say North London. I have a friend who works. He'll go from Tottenham to Southgate to Potter's Bar and to Enfield all in one Friday. £20 roughly, not roughly around. These sessions are roughly not him specifically, but typically they're around the odd £20 or something a session. Now that's what that's not that much, especially with London living wage going up. How can that be sustainable? And most people do it for the love of the game, and that's what you need. I mean, if these guys didn't coach, the people that you don't hear about, the coaches that you don't hear about, if they dropped out, many of these guys at professional level won't make it. You have to look after the grassroots to see the fruits of your labor at the top. And it's no coincidence that Germany, Spain, have a higher have their funding of these courses level 1 to pro is cheaper, and they have, compared to England, way more qualified coaches. Why is that? And then what does that now lead to? They have better players at from top to bottom. They have sporting success. Spain and Germany of recent years have a World Cup. England are out here still doing Monday Night Football analysis for the 1966 with all of these players. You see what I'm going against. Like, it's no surprise. Typically, that it's no surprise. We live in a country where there has not been an English manager as innovative or as groundbreaking in football as Pep Guardiola. I'm not saying that's not just England. There's other countries, but there's no one. You're talking about the likes of Eddie Howe and things like that. They haven't achieved anything, and they are, compared to Pep, etc., pretty mediocre. And people always complain about things like this. This is the truth. And I mean, the FA just exploits people. The FA, there's many organisations that exploit the likes of you or I or whoever that wants to get into football, has aspirations to get into football, but they don't have a rich array of networks to call upon. They prey on them. They make the overfunded courses. Not just, I'm not talking about the coaching courses. If you go and look at, there's all different sorts of courses, scouting qualifications and stuff like that. When scouting is typically a hard thing to break into, is who you know. Many of these scouts have never gone to a scouting course in their life, and people are charging over $2 grand plus to go and spend a week residential trip or something like that. It's exploiting. And on top of that, when you do try and access bursaries, they are available, but the FA will go above and beyond to hide this information, to make it harder. Now, the FA is clearly just about profit. They do not have a good relationship with clubs, and the Premier League, like you see with Germany and things like that. That's always why there's always a disparity between the two. Can you really what's the word? Can you really be shocked that and the vote of no confidence has been passed on the FA, and no one has any faith in the FA? Grassroots clubs, not even just coaching, grassroots clubs are failing, are being undercut, underfunded, are having to resort to illegal activity and launder money to be able to keep their clubs afloat. Obviously, if clubs close down, youth cannot play football. Some that don't have the money to go to another club or whatever, their parents cannot go to another club. So that means more people dropping out of the game. That could have been a potential Dele Alli, a potential Rio Ferdinand or Ashley Cole. People that have come from, well, not Dele Alli, but them two I just named, from inner city London. That what God knows what they'd be doing if they didn't become footballers. Rio from the south, Ashley Cole from a council flat, in East London. Where would they be? It's ridiculous. And then you got, like I said, the scouting thing, PFSA, I think it's called PFSA. I can't remember their whole name, but it's something like that. Go and check it up if you want to. And I mean, level 1 in this country is £180. Is £180. It's cheaper in other countries. Level 2, 73 hours, £480, up to 10 days, cheaper in other countries. UEFA B will set you back basically £1,000, cheaper in other countries. Germany, UEFA B is £430. UEFA A license in Spain and Germany is considerably cheaper. UEFA A license, if I haven't mentioned it, is the one you actually need to go and coach in the Premier League and things like that. And it's around, that will set you back up to 5k to get that and become qualified. And it's worth noting that you actually have to renew a lot of these courses. This is I'm not even talking about UEFA FA youth modules and things like that. You have to renew a lot of these qualifications. In England, like I said, it might even set you back up to 5k depending on where you go. So can you blame someone or people if they're reluctant to invest all of this time? And it's because these are times. I mean, these courses range from 5 days to 73 hours spaced out to a month. You come back after a month and you be reviewed. This is time and effort. And many people don't have the money they put to get into it, whether they're taking out loans or they haven't got it or the resources are underfunded. Can you really blame someone for being discouraged between not pouring all of this effort and money and not seeing a way into it? Because it's so heavily guarded, because jobs are so few and far and beyond at this level, because of the way the system is rigged. Like society, football is a very rigged game. If you're inside of it, you can have all the jobs in the world. That's why you typically see some coaches, bang, bang, bang. You'll see 1 minute there'll be a coach at under 16 level, bang, under 21, bang, they're a coach at for a national youth side. If you're in, it's fine. If you're not, you can't get into it. And it isn't fair. Life isn't fair, but this is why England are behind. Less qualified coaches on average as well. UEFA A license only 1,000, over 1,000 in this country. Spain over 12k. Germany over 5,000 or something like that. Do I need to spell it out? Do I really need to spell it out? Until coaching can become stable in this country, and maybe even apprenticeships are brought into it, or people are having access to funding, or that it is a case of being good and not just who you know, this game will not get anywhere. The coaching here will not improve. Grassroots will not improve. So how can the national team improve? This is why England, until this happens, England will always fail. They'll always produce great players, great technical players. I've said this before, but they won't get to that next level until talent is allowed to, the cream is allowed to rise to the top, regardless of where you're from, whether you're from Broadwater Farm or Eton, it doesn't matter. But guys, not to waffle, that's just some thoughts I've had. The UEFA B, up from UEFA B and A license down to level 1, it needs to be reviewed. Guys, I'm signing out. Just some of my thoughts. I don't think I've included it all, but I've tried my best. Comment if you've got any additional opinions or whatnot. Subscribe. Anyways, I'm out, guys.